I think we're up. All right. All right. So yesterday we talked about moving around in the viewport. We talked about navigating just the basic Maya menu. We talked about like just moving around in 3D space, all that stuff, moving objects, doing basic edits to it. Now we're going to talk about component modeling and extrusion. So when we have to model an object, doesn't matter what the object is. Give me an object. Chair. Let's look up a chair. We have to model this. The best way to do it is to take it from a primitive and then try to model out all of the pieces and then put them together. Right? You kind of. So what a lot of modeling, what a lot of efficient modeling needs to be is however it's made in real life, you kind of need to make it the same way in 3D. Okay, so if this chair has, like, this is one piece, this is one piece, this is one piece, this is one piece, you can totally model those separately and then just put them together. Okay, the simpler things are, the easier art is to keep them all one piece, like one solid thing. And that'll be a little bit cleaner to deal with later on in the pipeline. But just for starting out, you kind of want to adopt the sort of thought that everything I model, I need to model it like how it's made in real life. So it's each individual piece. And I'll tell you why later. So let's do... I'm trying to look for a good example, or a better example. No, that's actually probably about as good as it's going to get. All right, so if there was one singular primitive shape that you would have to say that this came from, what would it be? A square. A cube, right? Which is basically just a 3D square. So yes, a square, right? So let's talk about that. Good mythical morning. All right, so let's say I've got a cube in my viewport, all right? And if I click on it, everything's green, right? This is what we call object mode, right? But I want to start editing individual components, right? And when I'm talking about components, I'm talking about very specifically the components that make up a 3D object. So those components are called, hold on. My thing is also weird. You said... You said doo-doo. Okay. So you're already breaking stuff. All right. So there's three main components that you're going to need to memorize, and you're going to need to really, like if you forget everything else, you're not going to forget the vertexes, the edges, and the faces. All right. If anybody's taken like a decent geometry class, you probably know what this stuff is already. Just in case you don't, a vertex is a point. An edge is a line between 2 points, and a face is it's a face between edges, right? So vertex is singular, edge is 2, face is 3 and up, right? You cannot have a face that's only got 2 edges. A minimum a face can have is 3, which is why a lot of if you ever look at like video game wireframes, it's all triangles. Because what is a quad cut in half? It's 2 triangles on top of each other. Math. It's crazy when you think about it. Yeah, no, it's great. My Maya closed, so I'm trying to get it to come back up right now. I love it. It's great. It's fantastic. Also, wait to go to break until I get done with this. I know it'll be a little bit after, but like... Derek didn't have to go to SAP, we would have been fine.
Derek.
It's all your fault.
I'm sorry that a sped kid tried to talk about the freaking auto mechanic thing for like 5, 10, 15 minutes.
That's where you're supposed to do it. Right. Okay. So again, I've got a cube. And we're just playing at this point. We're not doing anything crazy with it. if I right click and if I hold it down, I get the radial menu. Okay, so up in the top left, we've got object mode. We're already in object mode, so if I hit it, it's not going to do anything. But if you notice, I've also got edge, vertex, and face. All right, those are the three things you want to concern yourself with. So top, bottom, left. Don't worry about vertex, face. Don't worry about any of the UV stuff. Don't worry about multi-cut tool. Don't worry about any of that. Just worry about vertex, edge, and face. All right. So if I click on vertex, and when I say click on, I just mean hover over it and then let go, you'll notice that we go from green to blue. That means that we are in component mode. Whenever an object that you have clicked on turns blue, you're in component mode. Now, I'm in vertex mode, which means that I can click on any of these vertices, and I can edit those. All right. And when I say edit, I mean that I can move it, I can scale it, and I can rotate it. Now, when it comes to vertexes, really the only thing that you could do in component mode is move them. You can't really rotate or scale them because it's a point in 3D space. You can do that stuff with edges and faces, though. So I've got this vertex I've moved. The box is dented.
That is so cool.
All right, now I'm going to go into edge mode. And now, if I grab this edge, I can move two vertexes at once.
This is sick.
Yeah, I know, it's great, isn't it?
Totally rad, man.
So we can do all that stuff. And now for face mode, I can select whole faces and move them out like that. All right. Now the cool thing about face mode is that I can scale, I can rotate faces, do all kinds of crazy stuff. I can also do that with edges. Make some really weird geometry. Okay. We've ruined the box.
I'd say you made it look.
That's like a glitch in Pure.
Very strange indeed. All right. So that's basic component mode. That's edges, vertexes, and faces. Okay. So that gives you sort of like almost like molecular editing abilities. It's great. Now, what if we have an object that's not just a box? I've got a cylinder here, and we want to do, let's say, face mode. I select faces, and I start moving it down. Now, there's more geometry here. It's not going to do as much as a box. A box only has, what, 6 sides? So when I select one face, that's an awful lot of editing I'm doing because there's only 6 sides. But with a cylinder, there's like 18 or something like that. So if I select one of these faces and move it, it's not going to edit it as much as the box, right? So there's a couple things we can do. If you hold down Shift and click other faces, you're adding to the selection. And I can move multiple faces at once. I can also do the same thing with vertexes. I can move multiple vertexes at once. And the same with edges. All you gotta do is hold down Shift and then left click, and then that'll add to your selection, right? Now the really cool thing in Maya, when you do component mode and you have selected a bunch of stuff, is that you can scale all this and rotate it at the same time. So let's say I want to sort of make the side of this cylinder flat. If I go and I select all these faces, and if I've got my scale tool open, and if I pick the direction and make it all scale, it's all trying to flatten itself out. So what I've done is I've taken the cylinder and I've flattened the side of it. Useful for, several things. Like whenever you get into actual polygonal modeling, this is super useful for a lot of reasons, and we'll get into why in a little bit. I can also rotate all this stuff at the same time. It's just super useful, super powerful. We aren't even talking about extrusions yet.
Mr. P,
What's up?
my camera isn't working. Like it's not letting me go and look around the object.
It's not letting you go and look around the object anymore.
Orthographic.
Okay, so hit spacebar,
Okay.
and then you need to go to where it says perspective, right here. Click on it, then hit spacebar again.
Spacebar. Perspective. I don't know what to do. From here, like, I see the four of them.
All right, now for the part that everybody kind of struggles with a little bit. Now, when we talk about modeling anything, and when I say we're bringing stuff out of primitive shapes, what I mean by that is we're using a function called extruding. Okay, if anybody's ever done any type of CAD operation, extruding is like the basis of CAD modeling. It's the basis of really any kind of modeling. But when it comes to entertainment modeling, which is stuff that's like for the film and game industry, it's not so technical. It's not so crazy. So let's say I've got cube. I want to give it some more detail. And I want to make sort of like a stepped tower or something like that. I don't know. It's just something. If I go into component mode, I go and I select face. And if I select the top face, and I'm saying to Maya, okay, I want to edit this face. I want to do stuff to this. If I hold down shift and right click, this brings up my next radial menu you want to remember. Okay. And the big one that you want to remember that's in here is this thing right here. It's called extrude face. I'm going to click on that, and now we've opened up the poly extrude menu, the gizmo. It should have changed this. It should look a little bit differently. You've got move and scale. Shift, and then right click. Extrude face. Now, yeah. Now it's very important that once you hit extrude face, you don't click off of what you're doing. You have to like kind of treat it like it's a live grenade right now. All right? Like you're all of your focus is on whatever face or faces you're extruding. So I'm going to bring this in a little bit. I'm going to bring it in on the X and the Z. And you notice how my topology is changing because this is a new face. And because I only brought it in on the X and the Z, it's in line with the rest of these edges. I've made new geometry. I'm going to shift right click and I'm going to hit extrude face again because I need to extrude it for a different reason. And then I'm just going to bring it out. So we got a cube sitting on a cube, but it's connected. It's one solid object. If we look inside of it, the geometry is just continuous. No issues there. This is better than just going and being like, okay, I'm going to make a cube, and then I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to put it on top of it. That is no-no. That is bad. These are separate objects that have no connecting geometry. This is one continuous object, and the geometry connects. All right, we call this topology. All right, and you're gonna hear me say topology quite a bit. Topology is basically how neat and nice your wireframe is. And if you don't know what the wireframe is, that's the vertexes and the edges that make up your model, right? So bad, good, very good. Because if I look in the inside of this, it's literally just two objects stacked up on top of each other. That's not going to work for a plethora of reasons. Whenever you've got 3D geometry that's intersecting with one another, it causes problems sometimes, not just with rendering, but also with game engines. They don't like real-time lighting, really doesn't like trying to calculate that. So you want to kind of have this stuff as continuous as possible. Now, there are times where you're not going to be able to do that. Like, really complex objects cannot just be the same mesh, like, topologically. It's just not going to work. Sometimes you have to have multiple pieces put on top of each other. That's fine. That's totally fine. Because chances are it's probably like small little detailed things on top of each other that you're not going to be able to see. But if it's these like big form stuff, you need to make sure that it's all one continuous thing. And the cool thing about extrusion is that I brought it out, but we can also go in with it. So if I select one of the sides, I'm going to hit extrude face yet again. I'm going to scale it in. And then I hit extrude face again once it's scaled in properly. I'm going to do... Now I've got like an in cut on my object instead of an out cut. So you can kind of start to get some kind of understanding with this stuff, that it's like... it's super powerful, but you have to kind of train your brain to think about, oh, how do I pull and push these faces in and out of each other to make something really cool?
So sick.
Yeah, that's all 3D modeling is you are pushing and pulling vertices and faces and edges until you reach the form that you're looking for.
I haven't been like, this is sick until right now.
Totally radical.
Totally radical.
And then once you have those extrusions, you can also just edit stuff too. So like I want to bring that stuff out, and then I do one of those. Do a lot of really cool stuff.
And then, oh, you can add to it.
Yeah.
That's...
Right, you can do a lot of really cool stuff. And it's super simple, super easy. As long as you are doing this with intention and you're not just like clicking on extrude face a bunch of times. Because what I see a lot of kids do is that they'll go and they'll be like, okay, it's time to extrude this face. And then they'll like accidentally click off it and they're like, oh, okay, it's time to extrude this face. And then they'll go and do it. And then they'll think it's fine, but if we look on the inside of this, we've got a bunch of faces that are just like on top of each other. We don't like that. So you want to be like really intentional with what you're doing. Yeah, I don't know. It's just you know.
Kind of like one of those scratch and post for cats.
Yeah, it's just happening.
I like it. Yeah.
You can make some sick stuff with this.
Can't read mine, can't read mine, can't read mine. She's got me like.
So what I want you guys to do is just using a cube. I want you to sort of test drive the extrusion, and I want you to just make sort of like a, I don't know, like a structure. It could be any kind of structure. It doesn't have to be anything detailed. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just make something that's got a bunch of extrusions going in and out. Try different directions too. If it's a face and you can select it, you can extrude it.
Oh yeah.
This is sick. I love this.
You can also grab edges and change how that stuff sort of sits. So if you want something that's a little bit more slanted, all you gotta do is grab an edge.
Is there a way to do something like to every face?
You want to be careful doing that because if you select a bunch of faces, like you see this operation that I'm doing right now. Like I'm just trying to like put that little divot in there. If I were to go and if I were to select like let's say all of these faces and be like, "Oh, I want to do that." And I go to extrude face, it's going to treat it all like it's the same thing. Like you want to affect all of this at once.
Yeah.
And that's not what you're wanting. So you got to be a little bit selective with what you're doing, and if it's something that needs symmetry, all you have to do is turn on symmetry, which I'll show you that later. Just don't worry about it right now. I just want you to like get your feet wet with extruding.
Oh. Cool.
This is really testing my abilities.
It's almost like that's the point, Derek.
It's almost like set my next.
Oh yeah. Get
All right, now I'm going to show you guys the next big tool, and we'll start to understand a little bit about topology and geometry. So let's say you've done all this stuff, and you're like, I've got a bunch of stuff extruded, but you want to add a little bit more detail to this. If you notice, and I hope that you're picking this up by now, but a lot of this stuff that you're doing is dependent on what geometry you have. Like you can't pull a bunch of details out if there's just not enough vertexes and faces and edges there to do it. So let's talk about how adding geometry works. We've got a couple of tools in Maya, but the most prevalent one you're going to use is something called the multi-cut tool. So if you look up in the top, sort of like right here, I don't know if that's working or not, but we got the multi-cut tool. If I click on that, it'll turn my cursor into sort of like a razor blade. And it should make my object that I've got clicked on live. There's a couple of things you want to be careful of. If you just drag across it, it will make a cut across the model compared to where the camera was at that time. So it'll make a cut, and it'll be slanted, but it might not be what you're looking for. Okay? If I go and if I hold down Control, though, what it'll do is it'll keep it straight across the entire object. So let's say I want to add a horizontal cut across this surface because I want to add some like cut in details. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. I now have that geometry. I can select it because it's been divided. Ba, ba, ba. And I can go to extrude face. I've got all this stuff selected. I just move it in. I've added detail now. So I've got those cut-ins that would have been really easy, or not easy, it would have been really annoying to sit there and extrude it all. Because then it wouldn't be uniform, it would all look a little bit weird. I wouldn't have been able to do it all at the same time. But I went and I used the multi-cut tool. I hold down Control to get that even constant across the horizon. Now, you could also do it vertically too. You just got to be a little bit careful with that because I find whenever you do like vertical cuts like this and it's not like 100% like in the middle. Like if you hold down Shift while you're holding down Control, you can get increments. So I can get 50% good, but anything above that, it's going to look, it's going to look slanted because it's trying to respect the geometry. It doesn't want to just do cutoffs like that. It wants the flow to happen. So it kind of gives us more real estate to work with. And the more real estate you have with components, the more you're able to do with it. So if I were to put a 50% line down the middle, I could then take all this stuff and bring it out and sort of make it just a little bit more detailed than it was before. All right, I wouldn't be able to do that if that line wasn't there, because the line being there means that I'm able to edit it, right? So now I've got stuff to edit. And now that I've made more faces, we could do stuff to those faces. It never ends. No, it's great. It's wonderful. This is your gateway into modeling.
I'm gonna get high.
Yeah.
I can get high, but without the consequences. Legally and socially.
I can get high. Just that's the end of the sentence.
All right, so why don't you guys play with that? I'm going to end the stream. Here's what you guys are going to want to do. You need to have sort of like this extruded structure. You need to extrude at least 5 times. And you need to add some geometry using the multi-cut tool, which, just to recap, that's up here. All right, you click on that. It'll turn your stuff into blue component mode. And then you can make your cuts, do whatever you want. Holding down Control will give you those like horizontal, but you have to hit a vertical line to do that. I know it's confusing. If you want something horizontal, you need to be on a vertical line. If you want something vertical, you need to be on a horizontal. And just, if you hit extrude face, you need to make sure that face that you're on gets moved. Because if you don't move it, you'll just have a bunch of faces on top of each other, and it's no bueno. Also, when you get done with the multi-cut tool, just hold down right-click and go back to object mode, and then you can find yourself back to component mode like that. Sometimes when you just go straight from that, it's kind of hard to make that adjustment, so I usually just make my cut, right-click, object mode, and then go back to component mode. Or if you get really messed up, just hit W, and then that'll take the multi-cut tool completely off of you. Sometimes it gets sticky, and it doesn't want to let you go. It's kind of sad. So yeah, when you get done with that, make sure you've got screenshot and then turn it in under classroom, so I can make sure that you're doing your check every day. Because we need to make sure that we're keeping up with it every single day. Don't get behind, because we're gonna get into a lot of advanced concepts with this, and I don't want somebody to be like, yeah, no, I haven't been paying attention for the last week, and I don't know what I'm doing. So, yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Nothing? Not a single one? Okay.